Hi there, and welcome back to Dan's American English. Today we're going to be continuing James and the Giant Peach, and today we have Chapter 3. So, let's start with some difficult vocabulary in this chapter. We're going to see rustling, emerge, bristly, whiskers, stare, creaky, beckon, hobble, whisper, wave, to and fro, musty, stale, mildewed, cellar, tilt, grain, luminous, glow, sparkle, faint, stir, murmur, crouch, forehead, slimy, boil, skull, witch, eyeball, lizard, gizzard, beak, porcupine, and stew. So rustling is the sound that paper or leaves make when they move. To emerge means to come out of something or out from behind something. Bristly means with short, stiff hairs. Whiskers are the hairs that grow on a man's face. Stare means to look at for a long time with the eyes wide open. Creaky is an adjective used to describe something that makes a long, low sound when it moves or is moved. Beckon means to move your hand or head in a way that tells someone to come nearer. Hobble means to walk in an awkward way, usually because the feet or legs are injured. Whisper means to speak very quietly, using the breath but not the voice, so that only the person close to you can hear you. Wave means to move from side to side, or to make something move like this while holding it in the hand. To and fro means in one direction and then in the opposite direction a number of times. Musty means smelling unpleasantly old and slightly wet. Stale means no longer new or fresh. Mildewed means covered in mildew, an organism that grows in warm, wet conditions. A cellar is a room under the first floor of a building, usually used for storing things. Tilt means to cause to move into a sloping position. A grain is a seed from a plant, especially a plant like a grass, such as wheat or rice. Luminous means producing or reflecting bright light, especially in the dark. Glow means to produce a continuous light. Sparkle means to shine brightly with a lot of small points of light. Faint means not strong or clear, slight. Stir means to move or cause something to move slightly. Murmur means to speak or say something very quietly. Crouch means to bend your knees and lower yourself so that you are close to the ground and leaning forward slightly. The forehead is the flat part of the face, above the eyes and below the hair. Slimy means covered in slime, a sticky liquid substance that is unpleasant to touch. Boil means to cook food by putting it in water that is boiling, very hot to the point it starts to turn into a gas. Skull is the bones of the head that surround the brain. A witch is a woman who is believed to have magical powers and who uses them to harm or help other people. An eyeball is the whole eye, including the part that cannot normally be seen. A lizard is a small reptile that has a long body, 4 short legs, a long tail, and thick skin. Gizzard is the part of a bird's stomach that has thick muscles where food is ground down, which means broken into small pieces by pressing or squeezing, especially with very small stones, which the bird sometimes swallows. A beak is the hard, pointed part of a bird's mouth. A porcupine is an animal with a covering of long, sharp quills, which are stiff hairs like needles on its back. Stew means to cook meat, fish, vegetables, or fruit slowly and gently in a little liquid. Okay, great. Let's start with Chapter 3. It was at this point that the first thing of all, the rather peculiar thing that led to so many other much more peculiar things, happened to him. For suddenly, just behind him, James heard a rustling of leaves, and he turned round and saw an old man in a funny dark green suit emerging from the bushes. He was a very small old man, but he had a huge bald head and a face that was covered all over with bristly black whiskers. He stopped when he was about 3 yards away, and he stood there leaning on his stick and staring hard at James. When he spoke, his voice was very slow and creaky. "Come closer to me, little boy," he said, beckoning to James with a finger. "Come right up close to me, and I will show you something wonderful." James was too frightened to move. The old man hobbled a step or two nearer, and then he put a hand into the pocket of his jacket and took out a small white paper bag. "You see this?" he whispered, waving the bag gently to and fro in front of James' face. "You know what this is, my dear? You know what's inside this little bag?" Then he came nearer still, leaning forward and pushing his face so close to James that James could feel breath blowing on his cheeks. The breath smelled musty and stale and slightly mildewed, like air in an old cellar. "Take a look, my dear," he said, opening the bag and tilting it towards James. Inside it, James could see a mass of tiny green things that looked like little stones or crystals, each one about the size of a grain of rice. They were extraordinarily beautiful, and there was a strange brightness about them, a sort of luminous quality that made them glow and sparkle in the most wonderful way. "Listen to them," the old man whispered. "Listen to them move." James stared into the bag, and sure enough, there was a faint rustling sound coming up from inside it. And then he noticed that all the thousands of little green things were slowly, very, very slowly, stirring about and moving over each other as though they were alive. "There's more power and magic in those things in there than in all the rest of the world put together," the old man said softly. But, what are they?" James murmured, finding his voice at last. "Where do they come from?" "Aha!" the old man whispered. "You'd never guess that." He was crouching a little now and pushing his face still closer and closer to James until the tip of his long nose was actually touching the skin on James's forehead. Then, suddenly, he jumped back and began waving his stick madly in the air. "Crocodile tongues!" he cried. 1,000 long, slimy crocodile tongues, boiled up in the skull of a dead witch for 20 days and nights with the eyeballs of a lizard. Add the fingers of a young monkey, the gizzard of a pig, the beak of a green parrot, the juice of a porcupine, and 3 spoonfuls of sugar. Stew for another week, and then let the moon do the rest. All at once, he pushed the white paper bag into James's hands and said, "Here, you take it. It's yours." Okay, great. So now let's look at some comprehension questions. So, who did James meet in this chapter? A. A porcupine. B. A strange old man. C. A witch. Or D. His parents. That's right. The correct answer is B. A strange old man. What did the old man give to James? Is it A. A valuable life lesson about the value of hard work? B. A tasty stew. C. A peach. Or D. A white paper bag with something magical inside? Very good. The correct answer is D. A white paper bag with something magical inside. Where did the strange old man come from? A. He emerged from the bushes. B. He emerged from the sea. C. He crept up behind James and surprised him. Or D. He came out of his house to come talk to James. Very good. The correct answer is A. He emerged from the bushes. Awesome work today. Great, great job. Thank you for listening, and look out for Chapter 4 coming soon. Bye.